Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Moen After Dark. I am your host, Moen. This is my co-host, Immaculate, if I'm pointing the right way.
You got it.
I got it. Got to just remember it's lefty-righty. It's all reversed here. Um, and we're going to answer some questions tonight. We're going to talk a little football, the spring games that happened this weekend. Ohio State had their spring game on Fox nationally. I hated it. I hated the format of it. It's stupid, but I will talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk a little bit about the rumor that Texas A&M is Big Ten bound. Um, that has been spread by Paul Feinbaum now. Don't just blame me for it. Paul Feinbaum's talking about it now. So
To be
we'll
fair,
talk about that.
he was going in the direction. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say he's saying that Texas A&M is Big Ten bound.
Sure.
Yeah. Just
He's
to give everyone, we don't want people running going, "Oh my God, they're saying they're." Hold on.
Yeah, Paul Feinbaum will say a lot of things that don't come true. So
Yes, yeah,
and I'm convinced he's part iguana. So
but he does also know things.
yes, he does. Let's take care of a little business here first. If you want to get your question answered or provide support to the channel, go down and hit the little cash sign in the box there by chat. You can do a super chat. We will answer all super chats. You can also gift memberships or become a member of the College Football Mafia. Uh, those memberships get you access to our members only videos like Wild University, my upcoming series timeline where we look at little alternative timelines, how things might have shook out, had other things slid a different way. The first one coming up will be the arms race of 1995 with what would have happened if they had taken the Big 12 threat seriously and the Big 10 moved to 12 right away, as did the SEC. So um, we'll be discussing some things in there. I got about 12 hours into it now. So deeply researched, deeply thought out. Let's go ahead and say hi to some people here. We have people jumping in here real early, right off the bat. Ryan Willie, the evil badger. I'm not. I'm just gonna say he's not so evil badger. He's an all right badger.
He's kind of evil, like slightly evil-esque.
Mischievous badger.
Yes,
I'm a mischievous badger.
We'll go with that.
Moen, what's your opinion on the Super League? Why would Wisconsin sign an agreement with Marshall if there's going to be a Super League? I don't believe in Super League. I just don't. I don't believe in it now. I don't believe in it in 2030. I don't believe in it in 2036. I think conferences are here to stay. You're going to get super conferences, and they're probably going to have scheduling agreements. If that's what you mean by Super League, that could happen. But no, I ultimately see a 2014 Big Ten, a 20-team SEC, a 20-team Big 12, whatever happens to the ACC, whether they remain a 16-team conference with backfills. But I don't believe in Super League. I think there's that idea never had any traction, and I don't think it ever will. What do you think, Immaculate?
I think we finally got a little light shined on the whole push for that and who was doing it and who was responsible. Prior to the Athletic article, which I know people might think badly about it, but I'm kind of grateful that they did it because now we know. Prior to that, it was just kind of this thing out in the ether. Like, where's this coming from? But now we know. We saw what level of presidents were part of it. I just think that it was a business idea. Some business interests wanted to get into doing that. I've told folks, like, if there's just one or two things to think about when you think about that, remember, a Super League is kind of like the college football's NFL. And what the NFL did to the networks was they started their own network and they started to pull content from them, started to control what they could have, when they could do it. I don't think they want to do that, repeat that with college football, guys. So remember, your biggest enemies to this is probably the big networks. And that's why the likes of the Big Ten, the SEC, and the Big 12 didn't even want to talk to them about it. So I don't think it's real. I think it's it was kind of an idea out there. schools like Nebraska would like it because then they don't have to worry about their academics. If they make it into the Super League, yeah, we're good. No way the Big Ten's going to get rid of us with all the payments coming in. So of course, people out of there were big on this idea because it would very much benefit them. So I would just say I don't think we'll hear much about that going forward.
All right. Let's thank you so much for that super chat, Ryan. Much appreciated, sir. I'll give you a little, there we go. Little cheer. Little golf clap for the Masters that's going on in honor of the Masters. Mike Smith has been a member for 3 months. He wants to let him cook, and we will let him cook.
There you go.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Thank you very much, Mike, and your magnificent beard for your continued support to the channel. Much appreciated, sir. Back to saying hi to some people. Antonio Baker's in the house. Everyone wants to be in the Big Ten. I think if you're not in the Big Ten or the SEC, you do. Jan Hulk all the way from Slovenia. Good to see you, Jan. Jim F is in the house. A&M has always wanted to be in the SEC. They moved when they got an Aggie governor. The Big 12 was unstable. And Texas flirting with the pack. I think Texas A&M wants to be where Texas A&M can win national championships. But that's just me.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not from down there. I can't judge or gauge just how much A&M is pissed about Texas coming into the SEC. Different people talk about this. I don't know. They did definitely want to get away from them. And then when there was talk previously about maybe Texas following them, all I kept seeing was Texas A&M fans and people saying that A&M would hate that and that they would leave. So at the time when it wasn't serious, there was like, oh, yeah, we'd totally leave if Texas comes and joins the SEC. But now that Texas has joined the SEC, now people are saying different things. So I don't know. It's just interesting that Feinbaum brought it up that A&M is absolutely not happy about Texas coming in. I mean,
right. And the rumor at the time was that A&M leaked Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC. But that was the source of the leak. Because it came out, I think, 2 or 3 days before it actually went down, the vote occurred. And I think the rumor was that Texas A&M leaked it. I don't know if that was ever confirmed, but it wouldn't shock me. But you bring up a great point. We're bringing it up because Paul Feinbaum has speculated about it on his show on the SEC network, which is carried by ESPN. Neither one of us is here today saying tomorrow Texas A&M is leaving the SEC to join the Big Ten. It's just some speculation, some game theory out there, how things might play out in the future. We know the Big Ten wants to get into Texas. Texas A&M might be the best candidate available. We'll see. That's why it says rumors flamed, people. It's a rumor. Paul Feinbaum's flaming it, not us. We're just flaming the Feinbaum flames.
And we're going to talk about it a lot because there's a lot to talk about, but it doesn't mean we're saying Texas A&M is absolutely joining the Big Ten. It's just a theory. That's all.
Daniel Gygax is in the house. Good to see you, Daniel. Daniel and I had a 30, 45-minute conversation after the show on Friday.
Nice.
Covered a lot of topics. Good talking to you, Daniel. Timothy Green's in the house. Always a great and interesting show full of content. You do a great job, Moen. I do 50% of the work. Immaculate does the other 60 because I'm not good at math.
I don't know. I was like, yeah, it might be like 20%. I think you do the vast majority of the work here.
Terry Kane, Miami fan. I want the SEC. Let's travel. Well,
yeah, makes sense. I mean, any FSU fan or Miami fan or anyone that says that, I'm not going to argue against that. That just makes sense.
Sorry, Moen, didn't watch the Ohio State spring game yesterday. I was watching a little golf tournament from Georgia. I am not a huge fan of the new formatting. Asking Ryan Day a question every 4 minutes, missing the plays because Jenny Taft has to ask a question. I was not a huge fan of it. Did you happen to see it at all, Immaculate?
No, that sounds extremely forced, though. I wouldn't have enjoyed that either.
Yeah, it was very forced. Our defense looked legit though, especially that secondary. Um, and Ibuka had a beautiful one-handed catch that just,
I saw that.
yeah, it's incredible when 80,000 people go, ooh.
There's
You
been
know
there's
it's
been a lot of
incredible.
talk about that catch.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the receivers looked on point. The quarterbacks just had trouble getting it to them. I did like Aaron Nolan towards the end. They let him play, and he's got some pop on his ball, but got to make better decisions, young guys. Those young guys got to make better decisions. Mr. Ed Wayner's in the house. Good to see you, Mr. Ed. Randy Taylor, Caleb
Hello.
Ramirez. Good to see you, Caleb. Caleb probably has a lot of thoughts on that spring game.
Okay. You have to tell us, Caleb, what you thought.
About blew my eardrums out with that music. LOL. I apologize. We play our rock and roll loud up here. Nathan Campbell. Hi guys. Good to see you, Nathan. Always good to see you. And then Nathan Campbell says, "Good morning, America." Okay.
Good
How
morning.
are you? Illini Ted. Feinbaum loves to stir the pot. He does. He absolutely does. He is an A number one shit stirrer.
His bread and butter.
Antonio Baker, hit the like button. Yes, please, if you could. That's costs nothing. Absolutely helps us. Hit that like button if you could. We have got 10 gifted memberships from Carrie Go Knowles. God damn.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said, let him cook.
We'll give him that one.
It's the carry
Give him
sound.
some clapping. We'll give him a damn.
Damn!
Thank you so much, Carrie. 10 gifted memberships. If you received one of those gifted memberships and you're in the chat, make sure you thank Carrie Gonos for doing that for you. You now have access to all the members only videos, including Wild Ute University and Moen Rants. We'll have some more stuff up in that section soon. You now have access to the Mafia family emotes in the chat, lots of whiskey bottles, Georgia Techs, etc., etc. And you also start with your first month loyalty badge. So if this is your first month, you got your first month loyalty badge. You want to say something, Immaculate?
Just thanks to Carrie. I mean, he's been one hell of a supporter. So once again, appreciate it.
Yeah, he's a real winner.
Winner.
There it is.
Thank you so much, Carrie. You know how much that means to us, giving us memberships like that and helping us to expand the community. All right, let's get to some questions here. I think we got pretty much everybody in here. I see some other people. I saw Michelle Weintraub was in here. Illini Ted's in here. Movie Time Blues is in here. We heard from Mike Smith earlier. Coy, good to see you, Coy. DP, let's get to some questions.
All right.
Moen and Immaculate, can you explain the difference between the Board of Trustees in the Board of Governors? I think he's referring to the North Carolina school system. You want to handle that?
Well, remember, this is going to vary state to state. They each kind of get set up their own way. Board of Trustees, this is also, sometimes you also see Board of Regents. But in the case of North Carolina, as we believe you're talking here, there is a Board of Trustees for every single North Carolina University system school. So like North Carolina Chapel Hill has its own, North Carolina State has its own, North Carolina Charlotte has its own, et cetera, et cetera. There's like 8 or 9 of them. The Board of Governors is the board that rules over all other boards. They are they're kind of the one in between all the trustees and then like the state. You know, it's a little more political in nature. And very recently, they had a coup. That might be strong terminology, but I don't know what other term to use when you look at what happened. What would you call it, Moen?
Wow, that would be it. A hostile takeover.
Hostile
takeover.
corporate
turnover.
You want to use a corporate term? That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want a government term, that was a coup. If you want a corporate term, it was a hostile takeover. And the Board of Governors basically now has full control over North Carolina. They can't do anything. They can't sue. They can't leave. They can't do anything. And the person that they moved in to be the chancellor of North Carolina, the new one, he was on the Board of Governors. So I should tell you, that alone, I mean, those two guys now have full control. So it's just wild. Just like there was one group of people, one group of thought that was running that university, and now it's an entirely different group of people who have the say. And so that's where this comes into play. You know, you might hear something get said from a Board of Trustees member with North Carolina, and that's not going to have the same value as something said by a Board of Trustees member of Florida State. So it's very important about where you're talking about. But that's to answer this question, that's what that is. The governors are over the trustees.
Yes, the way I would put it is the bureaucracy must expand to support the expanding bureaucracy. Levels upon levels upon levels. Joaquin Morales has a question for you. When is ASU announcing as the new AD? I think when and who is the question.
You know, that is an interesting situation because the old AD is actually not fired. He still works there. They just gave him a different title. So you're kind of wondering if he's actually still running it, just under a different title. The fact that they don't have a new AD yet makes me think so. So in terms of when will they get a new one? Well, probably, maybe, possibly when enough people once again rise up and say, who's the new AD? Because while everyone might have succeeded in getting this change made, it kind of seems like they just swapped around titles more so than actually changed the situation. So I don't know why they don't have a new AD. It should be soon, and yet I have a feeling it's not going to be.
Yeah. They got rid of the one guy that everybody hated.
No.
No, they didn't?
No, that's what I'm talking about. The AD, the athletic director.
But he moved positions.
Well, so they say, but they haven't rehired anyone for the AD. So it's like, is he still kind of running it? Or, you know, is the president running it with his advisorship? Because they don't have someone in place. And it's been months.
Like they would say in Appalachia, that's a gorm. What a mess.
It is a mess.
Movie Time Blues with a great question. What if the tampering rumor is to warn ESPN against tampering? I think he's talking about in relation to Florida State, the whole rumor that was started Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina being massaged into the SEC.
Then that would have to lead you to ask, okay, well then who would be making up that rumor? Who would want to be warning ESPN in such a way? A&M? I don't really see how that is in their purview. I mean, the tampering that would piss them off is what already happened when ESPN directly paid to bring in Texas, and they directly paid for Texas's cost of leaving. I don't know what A&M had to do in order to get out, but I don't think ESPN was paying their way. So I don't know. I don't really have an answer for that other than to say, what angle would that come from Movie Time? Who would be doing that? Who would say that?
We're through the looking glass here. DP, Clemson fan. Good to see you, DP. Mike Elko did a great job at Duke, took them from nothing, and had they not had injuries last season, they had a chance to be a top 10 team. I've heard good things about Mike Elko at A&M. We'll see. You know, he has to be better than Jimbo Fisher.
Is he? That's my question, though. Is Elko seen as worth what they paid to get rid of Fisher for? Because he was not the first pick. You know, the first pick was a guy that had controversy, and then they moved off of him. So, as good as Elko did at Duke, I kind of feel like there's got to be some people at A&M that are sitting in a situation saying, this is not what we were aiming for. And if you're the person or persons, the donors who put all that money forward, and you're seeing Elko, great coach, but you're seeing that's who you got, not whoever the other person was that they wanted, you're kind of wondering, am I giving you any more of my money? So I think this might be a pretty serious situation for A&M internally.
Fair enough. Question here from Illini Ted. Do you think this is a swap of A&M and Nebraska? If we can offload Nebraska
Unfortunately
to the SEC
not.
for A&M. I think we might have to throw in a little more on that deal to get that across the board. That might be. I don't know what.
We could throw in the Illini.
Well, I think the SEC is going to have to.
You want some basketball? You want Chicago? You can have it. I'm just kidding, Ted. Little Iowa humor. We're not,
We'll give you Rutgers. We'll throw in Rutgers with Nebraska. Give you a piece of the New York market.
That might be too much.
Mike Smith, A&M does not like the idea of Texas coming in. They left to get away from them, and the SEC pretty much snuck in Texas, and A&M went along with it to play nice with the SEC. Yes, it was a unanimous vote at the end of the day. It was a unanimous vote to accept Oklahoma and Texas, but keep in mind that those unanimous votes usually are only unanimous votes in
it's for show. Like,
it's for show, right?
There might be some no's in the straw poll, and then when they see that they've been outvoted, that enough votes are there, they all make it look like they're together.
Yep.
Which is why North Carolina, Clemson, and FSU not doing that was such a big deal at the time, because that's just generally not the case. That was them preparing for these legal battles that are going through right now, in my opinion.
Mike Smith, my school likes to party all the time. Party all the time. I can't hit that high note of the ooh, ooh, ooh. As displayed right there. I can't hit that note.
Didn't quite hit it.
Yeah.
We'll
get Eddie Murphy on the show. By the way, next week is a programming note. Big Ten Ted will be joining us to discuss some of the Big Ten things going on. So we'll have a full panel of Big Ten guys here on College Football
Big
Mafia.
Ten Sunday.
So, yep. The eyes will have it. DP letting us know the Clemson spring game sucked, was mostly depressing. I don't take anything away from it. I mean, there's things you could take away from it, but it's spring practice, guys. They're not running two-a-days. It's just kind of a scrimmage at best. I don't take too much away from it. They'll look completely different. I hate the format that Fox has done with the nationally televised spring game based off of the Ohio State game. We'll see how the Michigan game plays out next weekend. But interviewing coaches all the time, plays getting missed because you're interviewing a coach, having a coach explain and break down a play to you before it even happens, I hate it. It's one of the things I hate about the UFL too. I'd rather have the mystery, but that's just me. I could be wrong, but I'm probably not. Kerry Go Knowles, Florida State spring game is this Saturday. Is it? Where's it going to be broadcast at? The ACC network, or are we going to get it on ESPN or something? Because I know nationally next week Fox has Michigan at noon.
That could be an interesting signal, like what ESPN does with that, and tell us if they're trying to make good with Florida State or if they're just like, oh, fuck them.
Well, they might not be able to do much because I think they have UFL football they have to show.
Oh, okay. I mean, they still have like ESPN2 and ESPN.
Right. I just wonder if it ends up on the ACC network.
That would be fuck them.
Yeah, that's
the
ultimate FU.
Yeah.
Tony Losh and Denver won their 10th national championship in hockey yesterday, passing Michigan for most all time. Well, as long as they're passing Michigan, I'm all for it. Pour ourselves a drink on that. Go Black 45. Good to see you, Go Black. ATM or Texas A&M is not going anywhere. Again, we're not speculating. We're not outright saying that. We're just saying Feinbaum stirred the pot, and we're just going to stir it a little more. We'll break it down a little later on how far we want to get in here. Right. Marcus Williams hits us with a super chat. Got here late today. What's the Tamu rumor swirl? Well, you want to break that down, what Paul Feinbaum said?
Yeah, I think it was just during his show. He was having a talk about how Texas A&M folks are not so happy about the Texas situation. And it wasn't anything directly saying they're leaving, but it was inferred that they might be mad enough. I'm going to have to go back, kind of get into more detail on it. It was, I'm sure we'll be talking about it again next week when Big Ten Ted comes on. But that is where Moen's been talking, thinking A&M is a possibility in the future. And that's kind of his GT. Maybe a little bit more than that. I've brought up GT as kind of a fun way, but I think he's pretty serious about it. And we've discussed it a few times. But when Feinbaum comes out and tells you something, well, that's has a little more meaning to it when it's coming from him in the SEC. So we're just looking at this, Marcus, in terms of if he's right and it's true, and this is Texas A&M, they are not afraid to spend FU money, bro. So we're just kind of looking at this. Is it possible?
And in addition, Marcus Williams became a new member. Thank you, Marcus.
Double up. Nice.
Winner.
I'll clap for you even though you're a Michigan fan. Thank you so much, Marcus, for the super chat and the membership. Glad to have you here. Caleb Ramirez, I didn't care for the spring game either. I didn't learn much that I didn't already know. Yeah, it was obnoxious how many times they cut from gameplay to go. Ask Chip Kelly how he liked Ohio State. Chip Kelly looked completely bewildered. Mr. Ed, as much as A&M would want to get away from Texas coming into the SEC, A&M has other rivals, LSU and Arkansas, that they would not want to give up to leave for the Big Ten. That's absolutely true.
Fair point, man. That's one point in the not leaving notch for sure. It's just I don't know how I couldn't begin to rank like how much their hate for Texas is, if it's worthwhile doing it. So really the best we can do is just kind of do a what if.
We're just speculating.
Yeah.
Coy asks, what are your thoughts about the Arizona Coyotes?
Man, that was out of
going
left
to Utah?
field. I thought that they were working on a site here. I know the city of Scottsdale got involved. They didn't like the fact that the new area they were going to build up was coming off of Scottsdale Road, which as a local, let you know, I mean, that's a very busy road with a lot of attractions up and down and all around. So they wanted their new district there to come off of that. And there's a very affluent neighborhood just north of there. And some folks got in the way. And maybe there was such a headache that the owner just said, hell with it. I'm going to sell this team. And then the funny thing came out here locally is that he still wants to have a team here. He just wants to build this place and then try and get the NHL to let him have another team. It's weird.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
I read it. It made my brain hurt just a little bit when I read that part. I was like, why? But I mean, as far as Utah getting them, I say good for them. I hope they take my naming suggestion.
Did you pick Yetis?
No, hell no.
Okay.
This is the city of Utah Jazz. We don't give them mascots. It's like a term. And so I say Utah Ice Cold.
You know the Utah Jazz weren't originally from Utah, right?
I don't know. It doesn't matter anymore.
I believe they were the New Orleans Jazz, and then
that would make a lot more sense. But
yes,
that's fine.
Yes.
But you know what? This team's not going to be from there either, so that's their thing.
There you go. They get relocated teams. Maybe that's what they ought to.
Yeah, but don't keep the
Utah relocators. The relocated. Got to be better than a Blue Jacket.
I mean, if you can get Andre 3000 to come show up for your opening and you call him the Ice Cold, I would say you're in a good start.
The Utah Justice.
Oh,
that was
something
originally
like Yeah.
That was what that was the runner-up to the Columbus Blue Jackets, was the Columbus Justice. Illini Ted, spring games are also now a portal showcase. You're absolutely right. We were talking about this before the show with Lincoln Kienholz from Ohio State. This week opens up the craziness again. I think you're right. I think Ohio State's going to be in the portal looking for more offensive line help. We already know Dallas Hayden has entered the portal, who's the third string running back. Probably going to see at least one receiver and one of those quarterbacks leave Ohio State as well. So we shall see. But always great to have the portal open again. Might as well just have the portal open in July while we're at it. Antoine Codes. Okay, he's a professor. That's the ASU former AD.
I don't know if he's a professor. He got a new title. He might be doing some professorship as well, but it seemed really just kind of made up out of the blue. That was my impression of it. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but yeah, it kind of seemed like it was just, here you go, buddy. Here's a position.
Jesse Garrett, good to see you, Jesse. When will people realize UNC UVA are going down with the ship? Their situational awareness is sorely lacking, and their arrogance won't let them believe that the ACC could end up like the Pac-12.
Well,
I don't think that for UNC.
Yeah, I mean, we have 2 of the 3 schools that voted no on expansion have now sued the conference. I mean, yes, UNC hasn't sued yet, but they can't because the Board of Governors stepped in and took control of that away from their Board of Trustees. That's part of when we're talking about the hostile takeover coup. They literally took that power away from them in writing. Like, it's set in stone, not just for this situation, but all situations. So I think UNC was actually ready to go and maybe ready to leave behind like the likes of NC State. So I think they're very aware of what's going on. UVA, maybe not, but UNC is.
Daniel Gygax, I brought this up on Greg's show and wonder if Moen follows my logic. All the ACC court redactions are to protect the Raycom deal, and how much is the CW paying as a part of the deal? Well, you know what? Good point. We're going to find out tomorrow.
Could be right.
Maybe, unless the judge looks at it and says, come on, guys. I told you to unredact this. And you've just, that's going to be interesting to see what they take, what becomes unredacted and what stays redacted. And because I'm going to tell you right now, if there's stuff in there that stays redacted, Florida State's going to leak it. Florida State's going to leak it. Clemson's going to leak it. If they think that there's something
they know it
valuable to their case.
Yeah, because they know
that's going to be leaking out to the public.
Yeah.
They'd rather have it done in the court filing, but if they don't, they will leak it into the court of public opinion. Rock and Rant, good to see you, Rock and Rant. Texas A&M would never live it down if they were perceived as running away from Texas twice. And if you don't know, Rock and Rant is the main mod on our Discord, and I am going to go ahead and pop the link there in chat. If anybody wants to talk on Discord, by all means, join us. We talk college football in there and all kinds of other stuff 24/7. Would they live it down? They'd live it down if they won a national championship in the Big Ten.
I mean, do they care? Like, I kind of get the feeling from them sometimes that they only care about what their own think. Like, I don't know if they would care. I mean, he's not wrong that they would take that crap for it, and some of them might be mad about it. But would the decision makers care? Like, is that going to stop them if they are looking at the situation and realizing we're probably going to be stuck with Texas once we eventually go to divisions? We're going to be put in a division with them and Oklahoma and, whomever. But like you're saying, I mean, if they were to go to the Big Ten, I think most people, I don't know if I would even go so far as most people would say that their chances of going farther have probably gone up. So, I just don't. It's tough to balance and weigh that. But so far, from what I've seen of Texas A&M, man, they are not afraid to lean in that FU money, and they seem to not really care what people think about them. They've been made fun of so much in the past. It's almost like they're scabbed up. They don't care.
Doc Gibbs says the Board of Governors has been over the individual trustee board since most of people here were born. This is not new for the state of North Carolina.
No, but some of the powers that they took from the Board of Trustees and gave fully to themselves, that's brand new. Like that just happened last week. So, but yes, that has been the setup in North Carolina for a while.
Dan Miter, good to see you, Dan. There seems to be a lot of talk about Nebraska being left out of the next round of realignment with the AD leaving. Is there concern? I think this is more of a call to action than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
This is to light the fire under their ass to get the Omaha Medical School merged with the Lincoln School. I don't believe they're going to be left out.
When you can't get the right thing to be done just by simple common good sense, you have to resort to fear.
Yeah. Great point. Caleb Ramirez, does Florida State have to broadcast the spring game? In most cases, you would want to broadcast the spring game.
But do they in this particular case, because who it would benefit? That's a good question.
Where's it being played? Because I thought their stadium was getting renovations done this spring.
Another good question. I don't know.
But yeah, sometimes that's great for recruits, though, too. Because I know Ohio State had several recruits there for the spring game.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have a sellout. It was only 80,000 people to see a spring game, but still. Mike Smith, spring games is like NFL preseason games. They are too busy interviewing coaches or random people coming into the booth. Yes, I agree. The way Fox handled that, I hated it. I'd have rather they just did it on the Big Ten Network like they do every year. Or at least handled it the same way. I could have showed it on Fox as part of the Big Ten Network. Mike Smith, again, whether it ever happens or not, one would think that if the Big Ten wants to get into the new markets, the state of Florida and the state of Texas would be the prime choices. You're 100% right.
Yeah, as a strategy, that's dead on. I mean, if it becomes available, I don't think they're going to think twice, whatever they got to do. And I don't think their partners would think twice either. They're like, yeah, sure. Write the check.
I agree. And we got a Michigan fan here, Les Austin Jr. Your feelings and thoughts against Michigan doesn't bother us, Moen. My middle up as well. Go blue.
I had to
Michigan,
put that one
go
in there.
Bucks.
Had to put that one in there for you.
That's fine. Hey, man, they beat us the last 3 times, and they won a national championship. Although they did it under unusual circumstances. Tony Lawson says the mayor of Scottsdale is being portrayed as the bad guy.
Sure is. And, but you got to understand the politics. Well, he might understand the politics here. I don't know. But Scottsdale is kind of viewed by everyone else as, I don't know, how folks in LA might look at Beverly Hills, or it's just where a lot of the money is, a lot of the power and control. And I mean, they call it Snobsdale. So it's you'll get a lot of people who will jump on that and probably thinking, he caused this to happen. But his points were actually very valid. It was a terrible idea to think to put that off of Scottsdale Road, because if you're not familiar with that road, especially coming from the north, from the south, and right there at the highway, it's super busy. And they're talking about adding a massive expansion there and all that land, which it's just wide open desert right to the north of the highway there. So that's going to add a lot of traffic in that area. And just one exit down the highway, it's so sparse there that the road doesn't even go north of the highway. Like they could just expand it north, attach the whole district there, and it's not far at all from where all this stuff is, and you got the highway there, so it's really not a big deal. I think that's all he was saying, is it just makes more sense to be over there than off of this road. And it kind of got portrayed as him wanting to block the whole thing. But, different strokes.
Doc Gibbs, suspect A&M and University of Texas are two richest public universities. Each has their own oil trust. I think Texas is definitely the richest.
They both have that, yeah.
They both have an oil trust. I know
Mm-hmm.
that, but
yeah,
I don't know if A&M is the number 2 richest. But they're richer than I am. They're richer than shit. Okay.
I can't remember where I saw the numbers, but I actually think he's right. I think that they have so much that they are they're sitting on so much money from that it's almost not even fair to compare anyone else.
They're richer than shit. Jim F. to Arn and Gad. The answer is no. A&M is about to spend $100 million to expand the baseball stadium to 10,000 seats. You don't do that to go to the Big Ten.
I saw this comment, and I know they had a conversation, but you jump in on this too. But I just wanted to briefly say, when did they decide to spend that money on the baseball stadium? How long ago was that put aside for it? Was it possibly before the Texas announcements? Because these type of plans go into formation much earlier than when they actually start doing it. So I'd have to see when they were planning to do that. If they'd come to this mentality, this mindset well after that, then that actually wouldn't have anything to do with it. But otherwise, it's a very good point because Big Ten baseball is not great. I think Iowa was their top team this year. So, yeah, it's a good point.
Nebraska usually has a good baseball program. But you're right. We don't put a lot of money into baseball.
Yeah, it's just it happens at a time when weather's not as great. So it's tougher to really get people enthused about that up here at that time.
Doc Gibbs, why is North Carolina State portrayed as a backpack to UNC, but the UVA Virginia Tech tie is not?
You got it, or you want me to get on that one? Because that one's
I was going to say Cavalier Souvenir.
Cavalier
if you can make it rhyme, that's part of the thing. Cavalier Souvenir.
To me, it's pretty simple. There's a board of governors over both North Carolina and North Carolina State. The situation is not the same in Virginia. I mean, there is political pressure. We saw it happen with the situation with the Big East and the ACC and Virginia Tech getting pulled along. But I don't think that's the same. Whereas literally right now, North Carolina Board of Governors has complete control over it, where it is that's largely controlled by North Carolina State folks. So really, truly, if you want North Carolina right now, there is a North Carolina State that comes with it. So that's why we kind of did
right. And the thing that's holding them together in Virginia right now is one guy, the Attorney General,
who doesn't really have as much power as it. I mean,
right. If UVA can get into the SEC or Big Ten and leave, they're going to let him leave Virginia Tech behind.
The threat is a lawsuit from him, and that's like, is he really? I mean, politically, that could get him. He could lose his job over that. You're talking about alienating a lot of people. You might make some happy, but the people you make mad tend to hurt you more than the people you make happy in politics.
Yeah. And Pickles follows it up here with UVA value is as a state flagship. They are AAU and they have access to DC. And when he says access to DC, he means access to DC. Mm-hmm. A lot of people matriculate from graduation at UVA right into Washington, D.C. in the private sector and public sector.
Yeah, but as we were actually talking a little bit about this before the show, and we were talking about, like, saying we might have to take our big glasses off, and how this is one hell of a statement in terms of why the Big Ten might be looking at them. I don't know if the SEC cares about that as much. Not that it's not a good point for them, not that they wouldn't care, but is that inevitably what this is about for them? Because I mean, remember, these are the guys that are staying local, regional because it matters that much to them. And when it comes to culture and matching that, I would have to say that Virginia Tech matches that much more closely than Virginia. Virginia doesn't get people to go there to the games. They don't get them to tailgate. Whereas Virginia Tech, despite losing and falling off as much as they have, still has an amazing culture, an amazing crowd, and an overall experience. So I don't know if that stuff matters as much, Pickles.
Yeah. Mike Smith here following up. Most people do not view UVA as a good football team. Virginia Tech, when Beamer was there, was viewed as a good team. UVA's value lies in its research academic standing. We kind of touched on that. But again, that's your Big Ten and SEC goggles. Jim F., I posted about this on Texags, and one response was, you want to kill interest in our program, line up football games with Iowa, Minnesota, Illinois, Rutgers, Indiana, and Purdue. On the flip side, you're lining up games with USC, Oregon, Washington, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin.
Yeah, and it's not like it's not a good point to make. It's understandable why people might think that about those schools, but also we've seen this so often where, like, they say these schools, you might play a couple of those in a year, but you're, like he's saying, you're going to play Ohio State, you're going to play Michigan, you're going to play Penn State, you're going to play, say we get Florida State, you're going to play USC, you're going to play Oregon. I mean, I think Oregon and Texas A&M have scheduled, Washington. It's not what it used to be. So to just go and find the names you like the least out of there, I would say, what's different about saying, oh, you got to schedule against Vanderbilt. Oh, you got to schedule against Kentucky. Oh, you got to schedule against Mississippi State. Oh, do you really care that much about scheduling against Ole Miss? How about South Carolina? Do you really care that much about that? It can be played both ways. So I get it. I just don't think that this really is going to be that much of a difference maker with the difference makers.
Why is Moen dressed like a 2005 music producer?
Good question.
I was thinking I was more 2003, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, now you know, Pickles.
Marcus Williams. As a transplant to Phoenix, it was sad seeing the Coyotes leave.
Yeah, I mean, it's no longer a 4-team Metro. I mean, people here seem to be stuck on that idea as if that's really how you value a city. But, I think that where they positioned them in the very first place was a terrible idea. Most of your people who are into hockey here tend to actually be transplants from other places, Canadians especially, but a lot of Northerners, and they tend to stick over in the East Valley a little more. So they put it on the wrong side of the valley. But yeah, it is what it is. It's done.
Dan Miter, Immaculate is that big QB at Iowa yet? Thought I seen a picture of him at practice. If he is, good Lord, convert him to linebacker.
Well, it can't be official till Tuesday if we're talking about the same guy. But he's probably visited and been there. I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah, Iowa, where our quarterbacks are better linebackers. Jamie Thornton in the house saying howdy. Jamie, I swear one of these Sundays I'm going to listen to your radio show. It just keeps.
I saw it today too. I was like, oh, but I couldn't make it.
Yeah, I get caught up in other things. I was busy working on timeline. But good to see you. Thank you for stopping by, Jamie. We appreciate it. Sergeant Pickle says Coyotes were given every chance to make it work. I do feel bad because they do have a legitimate fan base, but crap ownership.
Yeah. Their whole ownership, the way they set that up, it was just a mess from the start with the multiple owners, not being able to get things done. Is what it is.
Nathan Campbell says, Moen and Immaculate, I've seen a Utah Bighorns logo, and the color's more light blue and another color, I think, white. So, Utah Bighorns. I like it more than the Yetis. Whoever came up with the Yetis idea, I hate.
Yeah.
Yetis are from Asia. It makes no sense why a Yeti would be in Utah. Can't even get a passport.
Actually, though, I wouldn't have minded hearing Sasquatch. I mean,
Utah Squatches, I would have been fine with.
That's a word that it's kind of fun to say.
Or the Utah Bigfoots.
And there's a lot of people from there that if you were called the Yetis, they might actually think, what, we're just a cooler?
Yeah.
They may not know what you're talking about.
Coy says Immaculate Texas endowment is 18.8 billion. Austin only 44.9 system wide.
A&M is bigger.
A&M is 19.2 system wide. Well, Texas is what he's saying system wide, because you've got University of Texas.
But there's more. There's more than just so two. Like if you were to take the 18.8 and 19.2 and add it up, it's still not the 44.9.
No. But 44.9, I think, is he's saying that University of Texas, San Antonio, University
yes.
Yeah.
But I was just looking at the 18.8 Austin versus 19.2, and
as individual schools, yes.
When you're that high, it's the same. It's
just pocket change to me, people. Jamie Thornton, LOL. There must not be much to talk about if you guys still have this dream of Texas A&M to the big. SEC is going to trade them for Ohio State. You're welcome. Well, for starters, Jamie, since you're here late, we forgive you, but Paul Feinbaum is the one stirring the shit on this right now, all right? It's not Immaculate and Moen.
We're just giving credit to the man. Come on.
That's right. If Paul Feinbaum says it, it must be the truth, and he must have heard it from Nick Saban himself.
Yeah, and also, I would never, ever put in one sentence to say, I have this dream that Texas A&M and their Yell Boys are coming to town. So it's not really a dream. It's just, there might be something to that.
Trust me, SEC would hate Ohio State fans. We are intolerable.
Yeah. I mean, we might miss like everything that comes with them, like the money on that, but probably wouldn't miss the Ohio State fans. Moen not included.
Yeah. Michigan fans are getting back up there, though. Michigan fans are getting back up there.
Yeah, but at least you guys are loud and like it's fun atmosphere. Michigan folks are like
arrogant.
That's it. Like and then they don't even get hyped up. I mean, some do. If you look at especially like the students.
But Jim F responded to your question about the baseball stadium. It's been since they hired the new coach before last season. They are still in the planning stage, but expect it in the next few years.
So not new, but maybe not old. Okay. I don't know. It's a good point, Jim. We'll see how it plays out.
Jan Hulk says, Immaculate, then just make Super League.
I mean, it's already two Moen, can you make your point?
Yes. There's already a super conference. It's called the Big Ten. There's another Super League. It's called the SEC. And then there you have the Big 12 and the ACC. Once the ACC gets all the quality teams plucked from it by the Big Ten and the SEC, you're going to have even more Super League. They already exist. Super League exists. It's called the Big Ten and the SEC. And, no offense to anybody in the Big 12, but I think if you put them brand to brand, it's not comparative. And, in comparative studies, it's not even on the same wavelength. So Super League exists. It already exists. We're living in the era of Super League. It's just not one. It's two.
And tried my best to come up with some scenarios that we might see in the future that do include everybody else, that do allow everyone to be part of it. But understand this, and I'm sorry, but it's never going to be equitable. It's never going to be fair. It's always going to be an uphill battle for some. So embrace it, make it part of your culture and your identity, and you might find that it works out for you. But that's just where the people who are in charge of this are going with it. And the Super League idea, it doesn't actually really benefit those at the top. So that's kind of how you know it's not going to happen.
Cleveland Rocks. Good to see you, Cleveland Rocks. I hope you're back in. I think you're back in Ohio now. We had some nice weather today. It was almost 80 here. Money may be the primary driver to the conference alignments, but demographics will play an important role as well. That's why North Carolina State, Louisville, Virginia Tech make a lot of sense to the Big 12. Yeah, if you've watched the latest Wild University, you know Louisville is, as he calls it, the perfect marriage for the Big 12. So, and Virginia Tech, and I'm sure North Carolina State, when he does those videos, you're probably going to find out the same. But I will also add, I had him just do a little bit of a quick run through on Syracuse. I think Syracuse is going to surprise some people.
Well, I agree with him wholeheartedly, 100%. To the point where I would say, well, this is kind of also, if you're the SEC, why you don't allow a North Carolina State and a Virginia Tech to end up in the Big 12. Those two programs in that conference could rise up very strong. And with Louisville being such a perfect match, I mean, that's a school that already tried to join the Big 12. You know, there's no one out there saying, oh, no, Louisville would never do that, because I think everyone understands Louisville would do that. So we'll see. I mean, it could play out well for the Big 12. It's just going to have to start to see some dominoes falling to know for sure.
Hey, Immaculate, Ole Miss is a top 10, 15 team. Okay, you got me at South Carolina.
I mean, they are, and I'm a big fan of their head coach, but they're still Ole Miss, and Texas A&M is still not getting excited about that. And in terms of that comparison that was being made about where folks do not want to play, someone said Rutgers, but Rutgers has been slowly building up. I mean, I think that at some point in time, Rutgers will be a team in contention. And Ole Miss is better. When Ole Miss is a top 10, 15 team, is that a good thing or a bad thing about the rest of the SEC? There's also that comparison to be made.
If you're an Ole Miss fan, it's a bad thing, because you know Lane Kiffin's looking to get out of that deal and get to a power program.
But it also means the rest of the SEC might be down a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it means Florida's down. It means South Carolina's down. It means LSU is kind of down, comparatively speaking. So I don't know. I just say, like, one can make the same argument either which way.
And then Illini Ted says Jamie Thornton, he was being nice and didn't mention Arkansas.
That might have also been the case. But we were talking about Texas A&M, and Texas A&M and Arkansas do have history.
They do have history from the SWC. Jan Hulk says, I want strong Big Ten and SEC interconference rivalry games. If not, then just make Super League and football and let other sports be like they were before. NFL model will only work for football. Well, I mean, there are schools that schedule tough out-of-conference games. That was part of the reason that they wanted those automatic buys originally, was so that they could continue to schedule those tough out-of-conference games. Texas has Michigan this year on the schedule. So Ohio State's got down the road. Ohio State, I think, has a series with Alabama scheduled. I think they've got Georgia scheduled for a series. So, I mean, it's not like the Big Ten doesn't schedule some of these power teams. Wisconsin's playing somebody this year, too. I'm trying to think of who it is.
They played Alabama, didn't they?
Is it Alabama this year they play?
They played it last season, so it's probably the second game.
Yeah, I think it's this year. So, Big Ten teams do schedule tough out-of-conference opponents for the most part. And I think that's going to continue now that we have a 12-team playoff, and a loss early in the season isn't going to absolutely destroy your chances of getting in.
Yeah, and real quick on the back end of that, the NFL model will only work for football. Well, remember, the NFL model comes with the NFL Network. So if you're talking about following the NFL model, in terms of the network start thinking, that means you're probably also at least thinking about starting up the College Football Super League network as well, and they're not going to support that. And they've got plenty of friends in these schools who are not going to want to rock the boat with those deals. Then they're going to be like, we could do that. Okay, fine. We'll pay you not to. So to me, it's more of a leverage position than it is an actual potential happening.
Yep, we're at the top of the hour here, folks. We're going to go for probably another 15 minutes. If you guys want to get your questions in, comments in, I just want to give a shout out to some people who've donated today: Ryan Willie, Marcus Williams, Kerry Go Knowles, Mike Smith. Appreciate everything you guys have done for us. I think I probably missed somebody because I accidentally unstarred them. I apologize. I accidentally unstarred you in the queue. I have to go back and look at it manually in YouTube. So apologies if I left anybody out. But any questions, comments, let's get them in here in the next 15 minutes so we can wrap this up. And then I will jump over to Discord and do a little breakdown. We'll go to Discord voice chat if anybody wants to go over there and talk. I will go over to Discord voice chat. Immaculate will not. He doesn't like Discord. I don't mind it.
Maybe someday.
Jamie Thornton. Trusting ESPN and Paul Feinbaum is like making a deal with the devil or trusting a politician. You better get ready to dig your own grave. LOL. Again, Jamie, we're putting it out there.
Not a trust.
Paul Feinbaum said this on the SEC network. So we're well aware that most of what Paul Feinbaum says is babbling bullshit. But he's in the media. It's on the SEC network. We couldn't help ourselves talking about it. We also talked a little bit about spring football and the ACC media, ESPN media document that's going to get unredacted tomorrow. It'll still be redacted, but they're going to unredact certain redacted parts of the redacted document. Hopefully that makes sense.
And what reason would he have to make this up? Like to completely make this up? He's going to piss off Texas A&M, maybe Texas. So is it because he'd want to push them away, make up something to get them to leave? Probably not. So I don't know what the angle would be for Paul to just completely make this up and not have heard this from somebody somewhere. Doesn't mean A&M's going anywhere. It just means, as a lot of people have said, that they are not happy about the decision to not just bring in Texas, but to basically pay their whole way in. I mean, they're paying Texas's exit price. They're giving them straight money to come in. So A&M's probably not very happy about it.
Yeah. Dan Miter, Cleveland Rocks. I hope you were right. Would love to see them in the Big 12 talking about Louisville,
those three,
Virginia Tech, and North Carolina State.
Yep.
And then Jamie Thornton again. These two must not have gotten the memo. They are running with his story. Sorry, not trying to sound mean. Just saying that anything comes out of Feinbaum's mouth is nonsense. Again, we agree with you. But it's interesting that Texas A&M is even being brought up in the discussion now.
I mean, if there's any other school, we would just laugh it off. But Texas A&M has history of, and the money to be like whatever you say the price is. I mean, it's not going to be like what we're talking with Florida State. It's going to be, I don't know, in the tens of millions to get out. They spent more than that to get rid of their coach. Like we're talking about like a very big move. If they wanted to do it, that price is not that much for Texas A&M. They spend that on a coach. So I think that's the main reason why we give it any airplay at all. It's just, if true, I mean, it seems like it would be possible if they really want to do it. Whereas most schools, they might talk about it and it's just like, whatever, man, go away. You're not going to actually do that. It's Texas A&M, so we're kind of curious.
Ty Kev, I think the definition of a super league has been lost. It's about a league forming with the best teams from multiple conferences. A super league wouldn't have mediocre teams like Mississippi State and Rutgers.
No, we get it. I mean, that's why a place like Nebraska is so interested in it. because then they wouldn't have to fix all of their academic problems because the Big Ten wouldn't get rid of them because they're bringing a lot of money to the conference by being part of it. But these aren't just sports leagues. These are universities with pretty far-reaching relationships. And while the money is largely just in football, those relationships matter in other ways too. So, I mean, maybe it happens. I don't see any reason for it to. I mean, why would I don't know, why wouldn't Ohio State or Michigan push for that? Why wouldn't Alabama push for that? Why would the schools at the absolute top of where they are and what's going on right now, why would they want to do that? Does it make that much more? Why? Like you're also bringing in all the other schools. I don't think it makes more than what they're getting right now in these top two conferences. So I don't see any reason for it, and they don't seem to think so either.
Dan Miter, how long after FSU and Clemson get out will your mark go shopping, or will teams in ACC stay and live off exit cash?
Good question.
Great question. Doesn't have a good answer.
I'd say that would depend upon the ESPN opt-out clause and how quickly they call for a renegotiation and what numbers start to get thrown out in those little private talks. If they hear a number thrown at them that's so much lower, and we're not going to hear about that, mind you. That's why this would come out of the blue to us. But to them, once those talks start, they're going to get some numbers thrown at them by ESPN. And they're going to look at it and say, okay, that with the exit money is enough. Or they're going to look at that and say, hold up. Because that exit money, whenever they get it, remember, that's not instantaneous. That's going to be like payments over like 30 years. I mean, these can get set up to where it's not as big of a deal as you think it is. So if that's like 10, 15, not going to be 10 because the AAC gets 10, but like 15 to 20 million, maybe 20 million, that's 10 less every year than the Big 12 is getting. And they're getting a look in, I think, in like 28 or 29. And this current deal doesn't include any of the Western Four. And it's not going to include whoever comes in from the ACC. So they're going to be up higher than 31.7, in my opinion. You might be looking at 35, maybe 40. So that's when ESPN comes to renegotiate and those schools see what the potential is, that's when it might happen.
Tony Lawson just wants to remind everybody that Iowa has Iowa State scheduled this year.
It's true. Got to have a win.
I think it's scheduled for the next 20 years, isn't it? Then the legislator make them schedule it out for, I think, 20 years.
Probably, and that's something that will have to be considered in all going forward. But yeah, I don't think that they can stop doing that one, and so the Big Ten's going to have to take that into account.
Kerry Knowles, the Florida Gators won't win 5 games this year. My question is, will Billy Napier last 5 games this year?
I think he's only there because of his exit cost is so much right now. They're just counting off the years.
That's just been a terrible hire.
Yeah, that guy's how far. The question is, how far is Napier going to drop after he gets fired from there? Like, is he still going to be in the FBS?
He might be in the G5. He might get a G5 offer. Rock and Rant, Kerry agreed. I already bet under on Gators in total. They will be awful this year. I think so too. Mike Smith, anyone else looking forward to the NFL draft? I love this time of year. Super draft geek. I am looking forward to see who the Cincinnati Bengals miss on with their offensive tackle pick this year. It seems every year we cannot draft an offensive tackle or offensive guard to save our lives. No matter how highly touted they are, they always seem to not pan out for us. So unless we can trade T. Higgins and get some more draft capital or move up in the draft, I'm really not super looking forward to it, But I'm super happy that we're not picking in the top 5 like we used to on an annual basis. I'll put it that way. Who do you think? You think Caleb Williams goes number 1 overall?
It's looking that way, but man, he's so talented. I just don't know if you're a GM and it comes time to pull that trigger, do you trust putting your team of men behind that guy? Do you trust that man to lead your men? And so far, I haven't seen that. So far, I've seen an amazing athlete and a pretty damn amazing quarterback. I don't see a leader, and you got to have that. So I don't know if he's really going to go first or if he's actually just being used, in usual draft form, like exactly what Mike Smith's talking about. I mean, that's the part of the draft where everyone comes surprised and goes, "Oh, we didn't see this coming." This could be one of those. This could be one of those where you see that man sitting at that table through a few picks.
Yeah, I think Drake May is a better prospect.
There's a lot of people on him, but man, I'm telling you, like for me, from my eyeballs, guy out of Washington is the best quarterback. I don't know how his injury status is.
Right. Yeah.
With his 40 run and what he did, he's a lot more athletic than people even realize. I always thought that he was kind of too stationary. But dude, if that guy has to get out and scat, man, he can move. So
yeah, his only downside, like you mentioned, he's got a lot of wear and tear on the wheels.
Yeah. And so you got to measure that. But if your docs say he looks pretty good, I'm taking the shot because that guy can go in right now. I mean, you draft him and you put him in, and you got yourself a shot. He's NFL quality right now. Whereas these other guys, I don't know. Is Derek May? Potentially. But I don't know if there's another guy that I could say right now. I'd put him behind the center right now. First play. Let's go. That's the only guy I've seen.
I don't know. It was interesting in the spring game yesterday. They mentioned that one of the reasons Judkins took Ohio State's offer to run behind Travion Henderson was running backs have such short lives in the NFL that he wants to reduce wear and tear. Yeah, going into it.
And what you do, it'll look good because you've got one of the best offensive lines. I mean, look, it pisses me off, but Ohio State, without even much fanfare, just continues to load up at offensive line. And if you don't have a great quarterback, you're going to lean on the running game.
Yeah, you're going to have to lean on the running game.
And we saw with Michigan what that does to a team. Even the guy who's second still gets a great look because when you do go, the defense is tired and you look like a stud. So being the number 2 running back at Ohio State is not a bad thing.
Very much. I like this, Tony Lawson. Mike Smith is a Vikings fan. I can wait. I have very little confidence in their GM. Yeah, they're gonna have to take a quarterback too, I would imagine. Maybe J.J. McCarthy falls to the Vikings. They could leave today for $45 million, Jamie Thornton says. I think she's talking about Texas A&M.
See, that's nothing to Texas A&M. To everyone else, that's like, oof. To Texas A&M, they spent twice that just to get rid of the coach. And then they got the coach from Duke to replace him. Like, what? I mean, you can't measure them by the same measuring stick as everyone else when it comes to these things. They'll just, if they want to do it, they'll do it. It's that simple.
All right, last question here. We're going to give it to Shonsky.
Oh, Shonsky.
What happens if Florida State wins the national championship this year? Will their fight with the ACC lose momentum by saying the ACC is holding them back, or will Florida State lose on purpose now?
I don't think they would lose on purpose. I mean, I know we talk about these things, but no. I mean, that's a team. Like that's a team goal. Like they're still going to go for it. Yeah, no. You're not trying to lose. Like the only win that comes in is once you've been pushed out, and now all of a sudden you have is this bowl game. That's why the guys gave up and quit and didn't go play. But no, There's no way a team that goes that far is agreeing to quit.
Right. And I think at defense, they lost a lot on defense to the draft, but I still think they're going to be easily a top 10 team next year.
So you guys are going on Discord, huh?
Yeah. I'm going to go on Discord for maybe 15 to 20 minutes to be in voice chat.
Can you throw up a poll, see how many people are going?
Last time it was just me and Daniel Gygax and about 14 people listening, but
I could jump in for a little while.
Yeah. If you want to jump in for a little while, you're more than welcome to. You don't have to, but if you want to, by all means, go ahead and jump in there. We know some people are a little shy. They love to listen to us and just lurk, but
That's all
other
good.
people want to get in there and talk and mix it up, and we love to have them. So we're going to wrap up the show for tonight, guys. I want to thank again everybody for all the support they gave us tonight in Immaculate's triumphant return to Moen After Dark. Tomorrow at 8 p.m., Big West Mafia show. Tuesday at 8 p.m., Big 12 Mafia show. And then Friday, the Big Freaking Friday show at 7 p.m. Just a reminder, programming note for next week. Next week, we will have Big Ten Ted here to talk some Big Ten football, some spring football, some draft. We may even get into some draft talk, some of these Big Ten prospects, how we think they're going to do in the NFL draft. I think the one can't miss pick is Marvin Harrison Jr. So until next week, we bid you all an adieu and peace out.
Adios.